Tales of the Tape? Is it time for Tales of the Tape already? I mean, it feels like just yesterday you were up here, we were at RPI watching lacrosse. I mean,
know, right?
And here we are, and suddenly, 3 Saturdays, well, technically not 3 Saturdays because we've got a break in between, but you get where I'm saying. We're almost done with the season, 7 games left, and that's it. JB, where did the year go?
Yeah, it's really flown by. It's just been one of those things where just week after week, just all of a sudden here we are. What is it, week 15? Oh my God, it's been crazy, but it's been a lot of fun. Some interesting stuff that we didn't expect. And when I was doing the Tales of the Tape slides, I realized that for the most part, I think 6 or 5 of the teams in the Elite Eight weren't here last year. So kind of a new slate. There are a lot of familiar names, like the Mount Unions and the Mary Hardin Baylors of the world. But still, it's like, wow, here we are with there's going to be potential. Well, there is going to be a new national champion. Whether or not it will be a team that's already done it sometime in the past remains to be seen, but very excited to see. And there's a lot of kind of lower ranked teams in the Elite Eight than we've probably seen. And the other thing I noticed, Frank, 3 of the 4 games are first time ever matchups for these programs, and the Salisbury Mount Union game is only the second time that's ever happened. So pretty exciting stuff, like a very fresh look for the Elite Eight here.
So, when we get to predictions later, I think we're going to have to do it a little bit differently this week because my decisions, my choices, already locked in. Technically, D3 football already has my decision. So I can't lie. You'll be able to compare it later on in Quick Hit. So I think you have to basically go first every time because technically in an envelope somewhere, they are already out there. Greg Thomas and Pat Coleman have them ready to input or have inputted them already and embargoed.
Greg, can you give me a call and give me the picks, please?
Yeah, okay. That'll work.
That would help.
Well, one of the games that we'll have to predict. Yeah, well, it's Springfield at North Central. Just saw our North Central guest popped in, so good to see him ready to go. But we've got a couple things to do before we get to Zack Orr, who is going to be our North Central guest. So let's get ready to go here, JB. This is our quarterfinals preview show, week 15 of season 17 of In the Huddle. Yeah, that's just not working. I know it says the 13th. It should say the 14th on there. And I watch how magically I fix this. I mean, seriously, this is going to be the best fix ever. It's going to be like, yeah, it's going to be so instant. It's going to be unreal, folks, if I can get to the right directory. But, JV, why don't you take folks through what the games are for this weekend as it fixes right now.
Look at that. It's amazing. Yeah, so this is basically in order from kind of top left down to top right down. So obviously there's 3 noon kickoff games, which is, once again, come on, man, why can't we stagger these out so we could watch them a little more independently? But, hey, so it goes. But from the
go to multiple.
Upper left corner, upper left corner, you got Bethel from the MIAC, Minnesota, basically traveling into Pennsylvania to take on Susquehanna, who had knocked off the only team that had beaten the Royals last week with that 37-yard field goal. So the big opportunity for the Riverhawks. I know Rashawn Lamons is on our friend Kobe Manzo's D1 Reject show this week, calling themselves the most explosive offense in D3. They have the stats to back it up, and he's been a big reason why the Riverhawks are in this game. Lower left-hand corner, triple option Springfield from Massachusetts is flying out to Chicagoland right now. They're probably over Ohio or something at this point in the morning. North Central is the prohibitive favorite. They won the national championship 2 years ago. They were the runners-up last season. They've got a loaded roster. This will be an interesting matchup of teams that we rarely see play each other, and so looking forward to that. We'll be talking with Zack Orr, one of the fifth-year defensive backs, although he's big enough to be a linebacker, Frank, let's be honest, and I think he kind of plays a little bit of both positions there. And then in the upper right-hand corner, what I call the next man up bracket, because we have 3 backup quarterbacks starting this weekend, with Mary Hardin-Baylor traveling to Homewood against Johns Hopkins, and then Mount Union at Salisbury. This is the only game that's happened before. Mount Union played Salisbury in the 22 playoffs on their way to the Stag Bowl, and they won that game pretty easily, 51-0. I have a feeling that this year's version is going to be a little more competitive, Frank. Salisbury has just been clicking on a different level. Their quarterback has done a great job distributing the ball to their playmakers, and we'll show you some of the things in the tail of the tape that stand out as we going to go through these matchups and talk it through.
But let's start with this one as we prepare for our first guest of the day. And it's Springfield at North Central, both at 12-0 and perfect in their conferences, obviously. Though Springfield lacking in the, let's say, playoff win column compared to North Central. But when you win multiple Stag Bowls, that really does bolster your playoff runs for sure. The offense, about 61 yards more for North Central, and allowed defensive yards, or yards allowed by the defense, I guess I should say, is neck and neck, 13 yards apiece, give or take. Drew Heenan, we don't really have much info. In fact, I'm not sure if he has any interceptions. We have INT just sitting there, I just realized. But he's kind of new in the position of starting quarterback. And Luke Lanen, 33 passing, 13 rushing touchdowns, 5 interceptions. You said he was not an All-American pick for the AFCA, which is tough to believe, to be honest with you.
Not.
My God, what's wrong with people?
Yep.
The turnover margins are neck and neck, plus 12 versus plus 13. But you do see the scoring differential, plus 42 versus plus 31. Advantage North Central in that situation. So as my mouse dies here, I'm going to get us back on the screen in a second.
Let me chime in something real quick here, Frank.
Yep.
So North Central was one of the few teams from last year that are in the same place this year. And when I was going through this slide and setting up the statistics, what was interesting was that this year's Cardinal team is not as statistically dominant as the one last season. The total yardage, if you can believe it, at 550 is actually lower than it was in 23. The defensive side was a little bit more yards given up. Luke Lennon's numbers, 10 less touchdown passes, 4 more interceptions than he had at this time last year. But the one thing that was crazy, Frank, was that the 12.42 points allowed, exactly the same number that they had at this point in the season in 2023. That to me is crazy, the consistency of how good their defense is. Yeah, maybe they're not scoring as many points as they have in prior seasons. I mean, they're still averaging almost 550 yards a game and, whatever, 40-something points, that's got to be plenty. But the defense, the same exact 12.4 points allowed over the same time period in the exact same kind of weekend stanza is pretty impressive to me. And they'll need that defense to step it up against an offense that is hard to defend if you're not used to seeing it. It's very up tempo. Ball goes a lot of different ways. There's lots of different options in the triple option, and so hey, there it is.
Right, a little late, so let's get our guest ready to go. I saw him pop in. I think he's ready to put his camera back on and have us interview him. There he is, looking good out there. You'll see in a moment what I mean, folks, as we get prepared here for a North Central guest. We haven't had much of them on this season, and just like we said in our Mount Union interview that we had to pre-record just a little bit ago, we kind of save teams like this for the end of the season because we sort of take for granted they're going to be in this situation, that they're going to be in the playoffs, and I'm sure coaches around the country hate when I say this, but it's just reality. And we are pleased to have join us at this point in time. I'm not sure if his sound's on. We'll check that too. But Zack Orr is with us, and here he is. His sound looks good. Zack, how are we doing today? And how cold is Naperville today, for that matter?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, it's pretty cold out here in Naperville. This last night it was definitely a cold one, down to like 20 degrees, 15 degrees. So trying to stay warm out here.
Well, I'm sure that Coach Spencer is making sure you guys get out in the real cold weather for practices that really challenge you guys. But Zach, we list you as defensive back, as JB said. You could play linebacker probably at your size ultimately, and maybe you do from time to time. Who knows? Because you guys are all super special on that defense at North Central. But take us through the season so far. It seemed like since the Wheaton game, which really wasn't a huge challenge, at least on a scoreboard, although we know it's a challenging team. Take us through. Since that point, you guys seem to just roll and roll and roll, and then have a bye week on top of it. How did this whole feel of the season go for you guys, where it just seemed like business as usual, and then you had to sort of restart yourselves for the more competitive teams out there in this playoff run so far, like Hope last week. Take us through kind of the feel of this season.
Well, absolutely. Definitely went a little too quick being a fifth year, but yeah, just taking it 1 week at a time. We know the opponents in our conference. They know us pretty well. We know them pretty well. So just preparing each and every week, making sure that we're locking into our game plans each week. And yeah, we know they're going to give us a challenge. So just making sure we're locking in week to week and preparing for the playoffs. It was definitely fun to have that bye, get our bodies back underneath ourselves and use that bye week as, kind of refining our tools, making sure that we're all locked in and on the same page. And then Whitworth and Hope, great football teams. They gave us a good challenge, and they did a lot of things offensively. So it's definitely a little bit of a mix-up to what we got this weekend. So it's been fun to, kind of get a look at what we could do as far as our game plans for all the teams that we've been getting.
Well, I don't know if you saw it when Frank flashed it up earlier, but you're going to play a team that runs the ball a lot. They only average about 40 yards passing per game. And looking at the tape against the Pride, I mean, what sort of stood out to you guys from a defensive perspective? I mean, are there any teams out in the CCIW that run the ball this much? I doubt it. I mean, it's definitely a different look than you probably have seen. But what were some of your initial impressions of Springfield?
Yeah, that they have great athletes on the field and they're a very physical team. They're definitely not a team that we've seen before or a scheme that we've seen before. Being that they've only thrown the ball about 40 something times all year, so it's something that we know physically we're gonna have to be locked in and make sure we are locked into our game plan and doing the right things. Kind of just making sure that we play our defense, staying disciplined, being gap sound, and yeah, just locking into the game plan that Coach Durkin's got for us, and everything should take course.
How many times this week have you heard the term assignment football when it comes to the triple option ultimately? Has it been something you guys talked about? Because obviously, as you said, you're not going to be defending the pass. You're going to be stacking 8 or 9 in the box probably regularly like everybody else does against a triple option team. This is no secret out there, and Springfield knows this. But, I mean, is it assignment football? Do you basically have to key in on a player instead of the ball type of situation? What's been kind of the preaching here?
Definitely. I mean, it's gap integrity is something that we say. Just making sure that you're staying gap sound and doing your job. Just kind of keying in on your key, making sure that you're paying attention and don't get lulled to sleep, especially with their passes. They got some pretty good schemes as far as their concepts as far as their passing goes. So just making sure that we're staying honed in on our keys and let our keys dictate what's going on.
I bet. Well, I imagine you probably missed him for a couple days because he had a dinner date out in Las Vegas. But your quarterback Luke Lennon, one of the Campbell Trophy finalists, he's also a semifinalist for the Gallardi Trophy for another year. As a defensive player, going up against a triple option team that likes to eat up the clock, and with an offense of yours that can score points really fast, do you kind of have to pull over Luke and say, "Hey, man, would you mind maybe not scoring like after 3, 4, 5? Like, can you do like a 10 or 12 play drive for me, please?" Is that something that you guys have talked about?
Yeah, it's kind of been our whole career here on defense. They score pretty fast. They're a pretty efficient offense. So We haven't really had much conversation. It's pretty funny. Luke actually came over to my locker and we were talking about the offense and stuff. And I feel like they're going to do their thing, and we just kind of have to, stay in the game, make sure that we're not, like I said earlier, just getting lulled to sleep with the stuff that's going on, and just being sound as far as everything goes with that.
Zach, I got to ask you, though, and this is one of those scenarios, we talk about the success of North Central, but Stag Bowl has not been the success level for Luke, for your class, essentially, that necessarily folks would expect here us to talk about. I mean, you've lost like nothing in regular season games in your run, but yet it's been an interesting, go of it in Stag Bowls. Obviously, UMHB and Cortland kind of turned things on you guys. I think 1-2 is Luke's record in the Stag Bowl. I know you have to get there first, but I guess the question is ultimately, does it make you salivate more in these games to get there to prove you guys are top dog here, that, you don't define us by 2 games out of the 40 plus or whatever it is now, 50 plus that you play in that situation. Take us through the mentality after kind of those Stag Bowls.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we at North Central, we try to keep, each week the same. We try to prepare exactly the same that we did the previous week, no matter who we're playing. Try to keep things the exact same. Obviously, those losses are really tough, and you're going to look back on those losses and kind of find things that you could do better, and make sure that you're like fixing up, and things that could have went well and could have went wrong. So I mean, you can't look too much into those losses just because like it was a Stag Bowl and there's a lot of emotions going on. So just kind of making sure that you go into that next season and fix the things that went wrong that year. A lot of things that went wrong last year was paying attention to those little details. We kind of got away from just like if you went to one of our practices, you saw the details are kind of starting to slip. So just making sure that we stay focused on each and every little detail, and Saturday will take care of itself from there.
JB, I'm going to run the scores from the season on the screen while you ask your next question here.
Well, I was curious, and I looked up Zach's hometown is Mokina, Illinois. It looks like it's a little bit southeast of Naperville, a few miles west of Valparaiso, Indiana. Actually, not very far from Aurora, which was the first win you guys had of the season. Kind of going back and looking at your career now, with a few games left, Zach, what kind of brought you to North Central, and what are you thinking about doing post-football?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Coach Durkin came to Lincoln Way Central, which is my high school, and told me about the culture, and I, he was selling the product that they were. He was selling the product. So basically, we just bought in, and we had that COVID year, so it was definitely something that you had to get used to, and we all decided to stay as a fifth-year class, and it was something that we bought into that culture, and we wanted to change the culture at North Central forever, and I feel like we're on our way to doing such, and we've done a lot towards making sure that. And as far as
go ahead.
No, sorry. As far as the end of my football career, I'm not too sure what I want to do. I'm going to complete my master's degree here at North Central, but I'm still on the job search. So if you guys have any opportunities or know of anybody, send them my way. I'm all ears.
What field are you looking for specifically?
I'm a sports management and general business major, getting my business admin at MBA.
Very good. Well, folks, okay, he's your guy right there. Come on, let's get it going. Okay, you'll find him on LinkedIn or among other things out there. Zach,
might have some ideas for you. I'll reach out to Coach Spencer and we'll see what we got.
There you go. He's a recruiter down there, so there you go, Zach. Listen, you bring up COVID, and I brought this question up to Coach Fitzpatrick last week after the loss to Springfield, because it seemed like that team benefited is a horrible word to use for COVID, but I think without a better word to use, from the camaraderie and kind of the ability to bond in certain ways to become a better unit out there ultimately in 2020 into 2021. You talk about your class kind of coming in and then making the decisions ultimately and everything else, but take us through that. Looking back, did COVID sort of make you guys a better team, a better unit ultimately because of what you had to endure together and to learn about each other and become so in sync ultimately?
Yeah, absolutely. COVID was definitely a little weird, so we would be lifting in like pods of like 10 guys, but we would have like one day where we were able to lift with like a team. So yeah, it was a little weird meeting everybody and getting used to it. But I feel like as freshmen, a lot of us weren't we weren't in the best condition to play, and we wouldn't have played. So getting that year of lifting and getting used to the culture that we have here at North Central, it was definitely huge for us. And a lot of guys stayed after COVID, which was pretty surprising because I know a lot of them, including myself, didn't know if we were gonna, keep going with it because of all the restrictions and what was going on here. So, yeah, it was definitely something that we used to our advantage. And instead of being sorry for it and sitting in our sorrows, we ended up just going to work and making sure that we were doing the right things to point us in the right direction of getting to those stag bowls.
So what's next in the in about 28 or so hours, maybe 29 hours? You guys will be kicking off there in Naperville. I imagine there's still probably some one last practice to kind of go through. The last bits of the game plan, maybe some some self-care here and there. I noticed you had a little bit of a club going on there in your right hand. Hopefully that heals up pretty good, but you won't be the last player to go into a game with a cast on, I'm sure. What's on the schedule for the next 30 hours for you before this game starts?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our walkthrough. I'll come back. I'll do a lot of stretching. I do a lot of stretching. I get some Chipotle, and then just mentally lock into the game and get ready for a physical battle on Saturday.
Bowl or burrito?
I do a burrito. I'm a burrito guy.
That my man, right there with you.
Pinto or black?
I actually don't do any beans. I don't like beans. That's
there you go.
Thing.
Extra protein though?
Yeah, I'll do the steak. I'll do the steak and chicken.
See that? Look, I could work there right now. I'm ready to go. Zack, as you probably know, we give you the opportunity for shout-outs, any family, friends, teammates, etc. And so, I got to see you guys in week 2. It's been a while. So, you know what? Feel free to take as long as you want because there may be some folks that people don't know about or haven't heard about here. Zack Orr, shout-outs are yours.
Yeah, absolutely. First, shout out to my family, my girlfriend, my teammates, the coaches, our trainers, and all those who supported our football team as we continue our journey. We see you and appreciate the support out there. Shout out the Rojas twins. Shout out my roommates, Angelo, Sloan, and Bryce. And thank you guys. Shout out you guys for all the work you guys do.
Thanks, Zack, but I'm going to keep you out of the doghouse. What's the first name of your girlfriend? Because, it's good to mention her, but, they want their name to be highlighted somehow. First name.
Her name is Katie.
Katie, got a good one there in Zack Orr, and we're going to see if we can help him get a job at some point here and get him gainfully employed so he can, afford nice dinners and things like that for you, Katie. That's the way we're going to work it here. Zack, always a pleasure. I love getting to talk to you. Our North Central friends, Coach Spencer does such a great job with the culture out there, and love getting to interact with him from time to time.
You guys have some crazy fans, by the way. The North Central football fans are a whole next level experience. Holy smokes!
Yeah,
they don't mess around. They do not mess around.
No, not at all. But might get to see you in Houston. Who knows? You got 2 more games to win, though, before we can talk about that. Cool. So, Zack, best of luck in the meantime, and we'll catch up with you soon, hopefully.
Thank you, guys.
Zack Orr, folks, and great time getting to talk with him there. And thanks to everybody, Clark and folks, for helping us get that interview together. JB, we got to keep rolling here. I mean, we have no time to lose here at this point, and I'm ready to go with our next tale of tape.
My bad with the late start. Relevant. I don't know.
It's okay.
Technical difficulties, my fault.
9:05 is the same as 9, right? Remember WTBS in the old days? The Superstation used to offset their start times by 5 minutes to everybody else. They would start at like 9:05 Eastern time. Yeah,
we're just
the
WTBS Superstation for the playoffs. Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. You got what I was dealing there. Let's look at this tale of the tape, which is mightily different on the first line between Mount Union and Salisbury. 12-0 versus 12-0. Okay, that's similar. Yeah, 9-0, 6-0, but 112-21, we believe. We had to get into Abacus and then a few more to get that set right. And we believe Salisbury's at 12-13 right now. On their run, and their last loss in the playoffs, I believe in 2022, was to Mount Union. Is that accurate that year?
Yeah.
Or and it was not a close game.
Yeah, they didn't.
But look at the offensive yards.
The 22 game was it.
Plus 16 on the offensive yards. Obviously, rush heavy is Salisbury because of that spread option. The defense, they do allow about 30 more yards, but when you kind of net out those yards, what is that, 167 and 190 basically, or 184. So, I mean, that's razor thin when you get down to it. TJ DeShield's numbers don't look impressive because he didn't come in until, what was it, the Marietta game ultimately? He had to...
I think after them,
was it
halfway
after?
Through the Marietta game, week 10.
Yeah, so... There's that. Cyrus McGowan, 12 passing touchdowns, 8 rushing touchdowns. But his job as that freshman quarterback is to basically be the field general out there on that option type of situation. And so, we're not going to talk about prolific quarterback numbers in a situation where it's a backup, former backup, we should say, and, a freshman situation in an option type scenario. The turnover margin, this actually surprised me that Mount Union is only a +5 this season, but their defense is what we talk about constantly in this season. So I'm a little bit surprised we landed there. Salisbury +8. Mount Union has a slight edge in point differential. It's the 1 versus the 2, which is a rarity throughout these brackets because ultimately I believe Salisbury is the only number 1 seed remaining as Hardin-Simmons has lost, St. John's has lost, and Cortland has lost. So the only 1 seed left is Salisbury. And, 2 seeds have fared better when it's come down to it here, for sure. So we decided to have a guest from Mount Union join us. And if you watch any of the national broadcasts related to Mount Union over the years, you've heard this name from Michael Reggie pretty regularly as he seemed to enunciate it very, very carefully. And that helped us get to know him. Tyler Echeverry joined us. And JB, because of their travel schedule, we had to pre-record this at 8:30 this morning Eastern time and, turn it right around to you folks. And here we go. Here is our interview earlier with Mount Union running back, senior Tyler Echeverry. Tyler, thanks for joining us. Always great to have the Purple Raiders on our show, although we kind of save you guys to the end of a season usually for obvious reasons. I guess we take a little bit for granted, but I mean, how does it feel right now? A lot of people were beginning to doubt the Purple Raiders a little bit after last year's playoff performance and then some of the close games this season, surprisingly. How does it feel to be into the quarterfinals despite some of the national doubt that's out there right now?
Yeah, it feels good. This is a newer team, so we've had our struggles from last year, graduating a bunch of seniors and stuff. But no, it feels good, and it feels good to be able to say that your losses turned into your lessons, and we learned a lot from last year and previous years, and just trying to keep winning every week.
Yeah, absolutely. But does it feel a little different from the standpoint that you guys win by basically a touchdown in the last couple of regular season games, and everyone's sort of like, what's going on in Mount Union? And then all of a sudden you guys come out of the bye week and just thump your soon-to-be former conference rival, John Carroll, by 35 points. Was having that bye sort of like kind of the right thing at the right time for you guys? Because you came out in that first round, or really second round game, and just looked like a completely different team. How did that bye week help you guys?
Yeah, that bye week's huge in terms of just getting players back healthy, people that are banged up and stuff. And obviously, the preparation standpoint, we were ready for whoever won that game between John Carroll and Mount St. Joe. So just that extra week of preparation and knowing that you have the edge of having a week on another team, it felt good. We worked really hard that week, and obviously it showed. We prepared well and executed on that Saturday.
Tyler, JB pointed out at the end of our Crunch Time show earlier this week that, hey, 2 years ago, Mount Union was in the Stag Bowl at Navy War Memorial Stadium in Annapolis, Maryland. And, you were part of that team. It was more or less, I believe, kind of you beginning to, get your feet underneath you, Michael Reggie getting used to saying your name on ESPN Plus and everything else. But, I mean, what did you learn, your fellow classmates learn from that run that's become invaluable for what is really becoming this run right now here in 2024?
Yeah, it's mostly just the experience of having these weeks late in the season, I'm saying late November, late December, feeling when school is kind of coming to an end, seeing how that feels. And not to say that we're used to it, but we have a lot of experience in that aspect. And yeah, just the biggest thing we've learned from then is just how to really prepare during these playoff weeks. Times are changing. Like I said, school is coming to an end, so it almost feels like a different season of the year. And yeah, I think just the experience of learning how to deal with those weeks and how to prepare during those weeks is the biggest part.
Well, we'll focus on tomorrow's game pretty soon, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the 24-19 victory you guys had over Carnegie Mellon, which, I mean, you probably saw from the tape, and a lot of D3 football fans have kind of learned over the last couple of years. One of the better rosters in D3 as far as talent. They've got Robert Corey, he's a multiple All-American linebacker. I mean, you guys really, took it to him, and it really seemed like the touchdown you had in the third quarter was sort of the turning point of that game, like where we just put it enough out of reach. But what was it like to play those guys? And do you think going against a defense that was so loaded with fifth and fourth year seniors, a lot of All-American level players, I imagine it's just got to be a benefit for you guys as an offense going forward?
Yeah, I agree. And especially going against such a good defense, they were super aggressive and all their stuff was just really dialed. Like it was a really good defense we faced this past Saturday. And I don't think you can take anything negative from that. Our offensive line played great, protected the quarterback, got some seams open in the run game. So yeah, that was huge to be able to go against a great run defense like they are and really play really well. And I think that's due to our preparation during the week and Coach Jeff Dart, how he dials up all the protections in the run game and stuff. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in for an extra one, Frank, if you don't mind, because it does feel like the offensive line and you in particular have really sort of been a driving force. I mean, we talked to Braxton Plunk a few years ago on our show, and we always saw like the Mount Raiders flinging the ball down the field to the Wayne Rubies of the world. It feels like though you guys are kind of going back a little into like the Larry Karras playbook of just having a really strong upfront rushing attack with that. And when I first saw Mount Union a billion years ago, I'm getting up there, I got some grays over here. The one thing I always noticed is that their offensive linemen were always like a step and a half off the ball before anybody else moved. It seems like it's just an intrinsic thing that you guys coach these players. But tell us about this offensive line and this kind of going back to this old school, in your face, like, hey, Tyler's coming at you probably 25, 30 times a game.
Yeah, it's an older offensive line. They've been playing with each other for a while now all together, and they're just experienced all together, so they can communicate super fast, super efficiently, and they're just really good up front in terms of like being on the same page. Everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone knows what the guy next to them is doing. And yeah, they have a lot of playoff experience together too, so that's huge. And it's just complementary football, The fact that it's a little more run heavy this year, that's changed, but we still do a great job of throwing it off those, and the receivers make great plays and they're amazing in space. So yeah, I'm just excited to keep that going on the offensive side of the ball.
So, a lot of people throw around the word option for what your opponent is going to be throwing at you. They think it's all the same. Springfield running the same offense as Salisbury, and it's not. Salisbury is more or less a spread option. They use the pass a little bit more frequently than, the Springfield triple option type situation. Did your defense kind of require you guys to try to mimic this kind of foreign offense this week at practice? How did they prepare ultimately for this added challenge? Because this factors into a game when a defense isn't really used to seeing something like this, and they execute it just great, as you've seen on film with a freshman at the helm. So how did the offense have to get the defense prepared for a game like this?
Yeah, for sure. It's a unique offense for the defense to go against, and it's harder to get like our one-on-one looks, like our ones on offense and against our ones on defense, obviously because they run that spread option. But this week we obviously had guys mimicking their offense for the defense so they get a good look. And it was just this week for the defense was just about them being disciplined with such a complex offense. And there's so many nooks and crannies to the offense. They just have to be super disciplined this week, and they worked hard this week in that aspect.
Well, I know that these brackets that people put out there usually get named after teams, but I might call this side of the bracket the next man up bracket, because 3 of the 4 starting quarterbacks on Saturday are going to be effectively guys who got their starting nods a little later on in the season. Tell us a little bit about TJ's journey that you've seen and the kind of the job that he's played coming in relief and really helping you guys win some big football games.
Yeah, TJ is awesome. I mean, we could sit here and talk about him all day. He's always prepared. Last year, this year, since he got here from Akron, he's always prepared like he's a starting quarterback no matter what, no matter where he's at on the depth chart. And unfortunately, Noah gets hurt in that Marietta game we're playing, but TJ was always ready. He's always a leader. He's always rallying the guys around him, and he's always just preparing like he's a starting quarterback. And there was no doubt in my mind or in anyone else's mind that when he got on the field, he would finish the job for us and continue doing such a good job like he has been. So, yeah, TJ's a great guy, and he just prepares super well, and I'm proud of him, but it's just expected from him.
I do have to ask you, because when I was going through your roster earlier, and people have pointed this out before, obviously, the Mount Union large roster scenario, I think when I was younger, they used to have 300 guys on it, maybe not quite that many. It's tough to count situation, yeah. But you see, quarterback. All these guys are probably sensational quarterbacks, but only a couple get to see the field ultimately. For a guy like you, okay, Naples, Florida guy, right, and obviously a phenom at running back at high school. I get the balance of, hey, I want to go to a national powerhouse, but I also want to see the playing field, and you take a risk, obviously, going to Mount Union. I mean, how does it work? How is the camaraderie between all these guys? And knowing that only so many guys can play the drums or can be the piano player, or in the old band mentality about things. You can only have so many out there. How does it work? Why did you pick Mount Union, knowing, hey, this is that kind of risk ultimately to maybe not get the playing time?
Yeah. It's the key reason anyone else comes here to play football this late in the year and work towards a national championship. In terms of the big, huge roster size, obviously all the guys get along. It's bigger rooms that, like, traditionally position groups are 5, 6, 7. We have some pretty big position rooms here, but the guys do a great job of holding each other accountable and just working hard, and everyone's working towards one goal, which is playing in the national championship. And as a young guy, the draw to Mount Union is to play this deep in the year. So once you come here, you know that that's the goal, and you're willing to serve the team no matter what. Like, I came in scout team guy, special teams guy, and you kind of just have to grind your way up. And it's not so much of you're chasing playing time at first as much as it is the culture of just trying to win a national championship. So whatever position you're in, you're trying to serve the team, trying to help the team however you can. And for some guys, you just become the guy and you play, and some other guys you don't. But everyone's working towards that goal of winning a national championship.
Well, Tyler, it's been fantastic having you join us. I know you're getting ready for travel. This is why we're pre-recording, actually, the way this whole scheduling worked and everything. Yeah, it's like, let's go.
Out of here.
But, what is the travel schedule like? You guys are going to drive down, head down?
Curious, what's...
Yep. Well, how are you guys getting there?
Yeah.
What's the day like?
Yeah, we're about to get on the bus right now. We got a couple buses, and we're going to make our way down to Salisbury. It's going to be like a 7-8 hour drive, so ready to lock it in, get the earbuds in, maybe get some sleep.
Well, that's awesome, and safe travels for sure. And I'm sure you guys are going to get a couple rest areas to walk around and at least stretch out a little bit, because that's necessary. You don't want to get down there tight, but it is a great atmosphere, I will tell you. Seagull Stadium down there is a great atmosphere. A little bit different. You'll see a lot of coastline type stuff your way down, but it's a great place. Tyler, I want to give you an opportunity for shout-outs to any family, friends, teammates, etc., as we give all of our student-athlete guests the opportunity for it. Tyler Echeverry, the floor is yours.
Yeah, shout out to my family back home in Naples, Florida, Mom, Anto, JJ, Simon, and shout out my older guys, DeAndre, KJ, Lance, for just always demanding greatness out of me and always pushing me to be my best and getting me to where I am today. And hopefully we keep succeeding. Go Raiders.
Awesome. And again, great to have Mount Union on our show. You guys are an inevitable piece of D3 football. I think is the way I've put it over the years. My very first Stag Bowl on the sideline was an interesting one. It was the first one that Wisconsin Whitewater had won against them, but I have gone to many on the sideline Mount Union victories in Stag Bowls. And could this be one of those years? They counted you out, Tyler, and you're still alive. Much like Mary Hardin-Baylor would probably be saying up above you. You may see them if you make it through this game. What a crazy playoff scenario this has become this year. But you guys are still fighting. Yeah. Best of luck, and like I said, safe travel. See you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. See you guys.
Truly a pleasure, and again, thanks to everybody over at Mount Union for helping us get that one together. I think Nathan and company got us that one put together, and we go back to Nathan. He used to be Westminster's guy.
We forgot to say something.
Go ahead.
We forgot to congratulate Tyler for being the Region 4 Offensive Player of the Year.
Good point.
From D3Football.com. I mean, you had an award winner, like the offensive MVP of Region 4, and we didn't say anything. So, Tyler, if you're watching this, our bad. Congratulations. We are looking forward to seeing what happens on Saturday, and I imagine you'll have probably about 25 or 30 opportunities to make an impact, if not more. He can catch the ball, too.
Echeverry. Don't forget. So, before we go to the remaining tales of the tape, we have furiously gotten together. Yes, we have furiously gotten together our weather map, obviously, because our Huddle forecast just was perfectly spot on last week, as you know, if you watch any of the games. So, we're going to start out with the not-so-hot weather. Yes, the Huddle weather. Springfield at North Central looks like a washout of sorts, 39 degrees, 85% chance of rain in that game. Everything else looks fairly okay, except for that 33 at Selinsgrove for the Bethel at Susquehanna game. Sunny, though. Sunny also for the Baltimore game between UMHB at Johns Hopkins, 37 degrees and sunny. And as you get closer to the coast, obviously a warm sea breeze coming in, JB, in this game to keep things a little bit warmer at 43 degrees and sunny for the Purple Raiders at Salisbury. But if you notice, the problem I had with this map is that I have three groupings that basically are running right into each other there, because this is so unusual for a quarterfinals to be this centric into the middle Atlantic the way it is. But here we go. Pennsylvania, and we have Maryland and Maryland represented, mainland Maryland and the coastal Maryland. Yep. So interesting dealings going on there one more time. Now for... Go ahead.
I have a quick question for you, Mayor. A status update, if it were. You did indicate that you purchased some heat line gloves and some socks and all that. How did those fare, and are you going to be busting them out for your another trip to Sones Grove?
So let me tell you a story. If you really want to, do we have time for this? Yeah, not really, but we'll do it anyway. So we had a holiday parade the day before the game last week. And so, I charge up the socks, I charge up the gloves, and I'm like, let's test these and I'll recharge them for the next day and everything else. And so I get the socks on and the battery packs into them and the gloves and go out, and my feet are burning. I mean, like, I have 2 socks on each foot, and my feet are absolutely on fire. And I can't figure out why, but my gloves they were charged up. They weren't working very well. So, okay, I take the batteries out of the socks because, my God, what's going on there and everything else. And I survived the parade with the glove situation. Get home, and I'm looking at things. I read the instructions finally. And I realize, how do you control the thermostat on the socks? I was kind of asking myself. Well, the battery packs that were in the gloves had a thermostat meter on them. The battery packs that were in the socks didn't, because I had them backward. I never really paid attention when I unpacked everything. So the glove battery packs were in the socks. The battery packs for the socks were in the gloves. So the next day when I put them in the right ones, they sucked combined. Okay, so having the hot feet was probably a good thing, except for now I have scabs on the top of my foot because that was that bad. I basically branded my foot with these coils inside the socks. So long story short, those little hot hand packs that people have, that might be the way to go for tomorrow for me. Yes, folks, I am a Harvard Law School graduate and a mayor of a small village in upstate New York who doesn't know how to use heated gloves or heated socks. Go ahead, Rambo's carving knife. Go ahead and carve me up for this one because I know you're watching and I know I'm going to see this on Twitter later on. Back to the Tales of the Tape. JB, take Bethel at Susquehanna as I go and regain my dignity some.
Boy, that's funny. Okay, well, so here we have Bethel. Look at them, number 28 in MPI, and 8 seed, made it to the Elite 8. For some reason they couldn't beat St. John's, but they've been able to beat everybody else. And the thing that jumps out to me, Frank, is look at that rush defense. 30 yards allowed per game, and that's it. Cooper Drews, the quarterback, 42 passing touchdowns. He's also ran it in 4 times. He's basically averaged a pick a game, which isn't terrible. And overall, plus 12 in turnover margin is actually, I think, the one of the better marks. I think they're right up there with Springfield and North Central as far as having the best turnover margin in this field. Point differential, 30 points. They've been beating teams a little bit more handily than Susquehanna. And it's interesting how close both teams are from an offensive perspective. Really, Susquehanna by barely even a point per game. But the Susquehanna defense gives up a little more yards, not a little more, almost over 100 yards more, and about a touchdown more per game. The thing that I was surprised at, Frank, given how successful the Riverhawks have been, is that their turnover margin's only +4. That's a big difference there. We'll see the statistics for Josh Ehrlich, though, very strong, 37 passing, 7 rushing touchdowns. He really can do the true dual threat. But look at that offensive firepower, 520.3 yards per game. I have to double check, but I think that's like second only to North Central's overall output. And very balanced, 272 plus 248. Just a really impressive offensive group there. And like I said, from our buddy Kobe's interview with Rashawn Lamons, like they really feel that this might be one of the best offenses in D3, and the numbers kind of prove it. So we'll see what happens.
I have to go back to something though. For Cooper Drews to have thrown 12 interceptions, but then to still have a +12 is pretty impressive when you think about it, and it tells you volumes about their defense and the turnover creation this season by the Bethel defense. I did what I told you not to do. Matt Young.
Yeah, you told me how to say it right last time.
Yes. I'm still stuck on the socks and the gloves. Matt Young, and his story's out there, but he's not the only one creating all these turnovers ultimately. So that defense of Bethel is something special. And the defense of Susquehanna, you're pointing out, they're going to have to step up here and not give up 354 yards. If they do that, this game is going to be Bethel's game, without a doubt in my mind. So there is that.
One thing I'll throw in there, Frank, just for a little extra color, with Bethel, 22 of those like positive turnovers. So they've picked off opposing quarterbacks 22 times this season. That's almost that. You just do the math. It's more. It's like 1.5, almost 2 per game. They've also collected 14 fumbles. I mean, forcing 36 turnovers over a 12-13 game time period. Holy smokes! The Riverhawks really need to hang on to the football if they expect to win this game.
Then UMHB, Johns Hopkins. I'll take this one. 8-3, or is it 7-3? By the way, John Melvin, I think it was, is one of the schools they played, is ceasing operations as a football program I saw this week. So they can't even go back to that one to schedule up again. Hopkins, 11-1, 6-0. But, you look at the playoff history, 42-16 for the Crew. 14-12 for Hopkins. Almost identical offensive outputs, but low offensive outputs at that. The 345-ish average range there between the two of them. Low by standards of who's in the playoffs that we've looked at already. And they give up almost identical yardage, 296, 292. My goodness, this is even Steven for these two teams. Jake Wright and James Rennell both came in as backup quarterbacks this season. Jake Wright thrown more interceptions. Much of that, I believe, belonged inside that Hardin-Simmons game he got reinserted into, the second version of it this season when he came back from his injury. So he's played better football overall, though he did give up a big interception in that second half. Almost gave Linfield an opportunity, or really did give them an opportunity to try to come back, but they turned the script on them later on with the 2 interceptions they had in the fourth quarter, UMHB. James Ranello, only 3 picks. James Ranello has not lost games. Let me say that way. No. James Ranello has not lost games, and that is kind of what you had to expect for him to be successful, because in this role with Bay Harvey out, he could have done something wrong, and their wins have been razor thin at times. James Ranello deserves so much credit for what he's been able to do. So we go from James Ranello has not lost games to James Ranello has helped win games now because they had the patience and had the defense able to get him into this position. Turnover margin +10 and +6. Again, we're not seeing +20s like we've seen in past seasons for playoff teams. This is more pedestrian-like in the turnover margins we're seeing, and they're both +11 and change in scoring margin. This slide tells you what a weird game, what a weird playoffs this really has become, because this is not a playoff slide from historic circumstances of us doing Tales of the Tape. This is probably the weirdest one I've seen in our years of doing this, JB. And I mean, give me a little bit more thought on that as we get ready for our predictions.
Yeah, I mean, so we've been doing these Tale of the Tape things for, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 years now, give or take. And traditionally, particularly when you get to this phase of the playoffs, you usually see teams that are averaging 400 to 500 plus yards per game on offense and giving up like 200 and something yards on defense. They're usually, like you said, Frank, +20 in turnover margin. Their point differential is usually 25 to 35 points. So very unusual profiles, to kind of go along with the fact that, as I said at the top of the show, all of these matchups effectively are pretty unique. We've got 3 first-time games. We've got 1. This is the second go-around. So this playoff season has been pretty topsy-turvy, a little bit unexpected, but it's also been entertaining because they've been hard to predict, and a lot of different things have happened over the course of the last 3 rounds, and we've got a couple more to go here till we get to the Stag Bowl.
See what's on the screen. Yeah, it was 5 games, then it's 2 games, as you know, folks. This could do it. You could actually win enough games this week to put me away. If you can turn, basically, at least one would force a tie. If you can turn 1 game on me, go +1 on me this week, you would force at worst a tie. If you turn 2 games on me, you have won our pick'em for the season. But, for a guy that looked like he was running away with
You'll
it
send
at
me some
one point,
heated gloves as my prize?
no, I'll send you the heated socks and let you try those with the wrong batteries. How's that?
Sounds fun.
Yeah. Trust me, this has not been a good week for sleep because of that. Anyway, for a guy that was running away with it, you've actually given me an opportunity here. Now, as I said, I'm going to have to make you go first this time because I am embargoed on this. So I think it's only fair that you're going to be able to see quick hits in a couple minutes and see what I picked. But here we go.
Yeah, Pat, if you want to post that now, that would be great.
Yeah, you stay off the internet, young man, okay? We're going to start upper left. Yep. There's the game. You're going to start. I'll get the clock going. 10 minutes starts now. Bethel at Susquehanna.
All right. So I am officially 0-2 picking against Susquehanna. And the first time I knew that I was kind of doing a little bit of a flyer there for my Hobart Statesman. That was a little bit of a hard overhead kind of a pick. But hey, credit Hobart, they hung around there. And I've seen some people posting online that they're not including Hobart in their final top 25. Really? Come on. Anyway, Bethel's defense I think might be the difference here, and some of the challenges that we've seen teams struggle with them, but at the end of the day, Susquehanna was the team that beat St. John's. So, heck, if I'm going to go down in flames, here goes. I'll take Susquehanna in a very close call. I think it'll be a higher scoring game maybe for the Bethel side with that defense, but Susquehanna wins 24-20. Is that higher scoring?
So here's what...
No. Maybe 40. 40-30.
Here's what I wrote. It might be the best way to do this. Throughout the notion of how St. John's beating Bethel twice and Susquehanna beating the Johnnies means Susquehanna beats Bethel. The Royals are playing their best football of the season in the playoffs, so I look at this without reference to those games. My key? The running game and passing game of Susquehanna will challenge the defense of Bethel on the road, just enough to get the Riverhawks a slight win here. Susquehanna 27, Bethel 23 is my pick. Okay.
Really? Okay. I really thought you might pick Bethel there. Okay.
I thought you might also.
So
lower left.
Yeah. I would love to see Springfield pull off another big upset. That would just set the D3 nation on fire. But you look at North Central's run these past 4 or 5 seasons, and other than a loss or 2 in the Stag, 2 losses in the Stag Bowl over the last 4 years, they don't lose. And I think Springfield will keep it interesting, but eventually the Cardinals will pull away and win it 41-27.
I expect the Pride to speed up this game to try to keep it close to have a chance at the end. However, I've attended enough North Central games to know they won't turn the ball over like we saw Cortland do last week. That means the Cardinals will exert more control overall and expand their lead in the second half. North Central wins 35-17. Third game, upper right, UMHB at Johns Hopkins. We've matched 2 for 2. Do we go 3 for 3, JB?
Yeah, this, going back to that slide we talked about, this is going to be the hardest game to pick because of the fact that these teams are so similar. So Hopkins is +6 in turnover margin. UMHB is +10. They've committed 26 turnovers, though. But I think that was like back in the, earlier on in the season when they were kind of struggling. It feels like, I don't know, man. It's such a tough call. But I just feel like UMHB is just a little more familiar with this territory, and they seem to be peaking and have something to prove. And as much as I think Hopkins' defensive line could bottle them up and create some problems, I just think UMHB will probably squeak it out like they did against Linfield and probably get an interception or some kind of play late and hang on to win like 17-13.
The difference maker in this game is the balance we're beginning to see in the Crew's offense between pass and run now that Jake Wright is comfortable at the helm. This edge, combined with the strength of the UMHB defense, gives the Crew a big enough edge to pull out a win against the Blue Jays' defensive stalwarts. Mary Hardin-Baylor 20, Johns Hopkins 13. Almost identical score in that one for us. This is kind of funny right now. Nope. And again, folks, we do not tell each other this. We're either going to be
really right or look like idiots. And it's all
we're used to the second part.
Either way is, yeah.
Union Salisbury, lower right, go for
it. Yeah, well, this isn't going to be like the 22 matchup where Mount Union won 51-0, but and Salisbury's been pretty exceptional this year. I mean, they thumped Hopkins earlier in the season. You know, they seem like they're kind of on this roll. I'm pulling up their schedule here. I mean, yeah, they beat Hopkins by 28, and then they've been just rolling through everybody. Although the Rowan game was a little closer than people thought, and they took care of Kings, they took care of Randolph-Macon. But I don't know. I think Mount Union after the bye has kind of come out firing, and the fact that the way they fought a really good Carnegie Mellon team, I just feel like Mount Union's just a little step above, and with players like Tyler, I think he's going to probably run the ball 25 plus times. He might catch a couple out of the backfield. It's going to be a back and forth game, but I think Mount Union has enough to hang on to this one, say 24-20.
You can't be serious. This is the toughest of the games for me to pick. And my deciding factor is to go with the experience of Mount Union's program in these situations. Cyrus McGowan, the freshman phenom, has engineered an impressive playoff run, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Seagulls find a way to win. Yet, the Mount Union defense has allowed TJ DeShields to come into his own since Noah Boudry's late season injury. Defense wins championships, and I give that edge to the Purple Raiders based on their play for several weeks. Mount Union 24, Salisbury 21. 1 point off the final score. We are matched all the way. Are you kidding me?
That's
crazy.
I'm locked in with the mayor.
These are not easy matchups to pick, JB. I mean, this is not like, oh yeah,
no, there's just a good chance for us to go 0-4 as it was to be 4-0 this weekend. Who knows?
Unbelievable.
I mean, I know that there are some people out there saying that North Central is like a 23 or 4-point favorite, and that there are some places saying that Bethel should beat Susquehanna because Bethel's from Minnesota and every team east of Ohio sucks. But anything is possible in these games. Salisbury winning would not surprise me. Hopkins winning would not surprise me. It's going to be a great weekend. And just once again, it would be nice if we could have gotten a couple of 3 o'clock starts, especially the Maryland games. I mean, it's not going to be that much colder. And some of those fields I know have lights. So even if it got dark at 5:30 or whatever, come on, guys.
Yeah, Salisbury has good lights. I can confirm that. Yep. And Hopkins probably does too with their state-of-the-art lacrosse field that they play football on, basically, I should call it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So let's look at a couple things here. Region 6 at Region 2. Region 1 at Region 5. Region 3 at Region 2. Region 4 at Region 2. So 4 games have either a Region 1 or a Region 2 team in them. Again, not something we expected to say this deep into the playoffs necessarily. Now, yes, Region 2 has the most length compared to any other region out there because of the landmark situation, and that obviously puts Susquehanna into the chaos of it all there. But still, only one team from Region 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Region 6 only has one team. That's the WEAC, that's the MIAC, that's the NWC. I mean, just think about that for a second when you get a chance, folks. and then 3 teams from Region 2 and 1 from Region 1 is something unbelievable to us. So, you know where I'm going?
I feel like this is one of those Goodwill Hunting moments, Frank. It's like, you like apples? How you like them apples?
How you like them apples?
Well, it kind of goes back to your tweet with, sort of shout out to Zach Boys. I mean, Cortland really changed things. I think we've seen over the last couple of seasons with a combination of schedules and results, like things are evening out. And even though there are some tried and true names that could end up in the Final Four, like Mary Hardin Baylor against Mount Union and North Central, for the most part, though, to have this kind of lineup where you've got you've got the 3 Region 2 teams, conference champions, hosting Elite 8 games. It's a new day and age. All that the past is the past. This is a kind of a new story, and it's making covering these games that much more interesting.
Our apologies to Matt Damon, who we didn't have time for on our show. Oh, wait. Sorry, that's the wrong show. I will be at Susquehanna on Saturday for the Bethel-Susquehanna game. I actually was wrong. I have covered Bethel one other time. I did the play-by-play when they faced Mount Union in the semifinals a number of years ago for the pre-ESPN Plus days. So that was one of the last years that ESPN didn't do the semifinals. I actually was at Alliance. Lenny had asked me to come through and do the play-by-play back then for their video broadcast. And so, it's been a long time, though, for sure. So Bethel at Susquehanna will be a unique experience for me down in Sealands Grove. But Saturday, JB will be covering all the games on Twitter, obviously, all 4 of them, and they will be on top of each other with a slight edge to getting the end of Springfield at North Central after you watch the first 3 games. Although, ironically,
well, I think,
maybe not.
You know what, Frank, to be fair, I think my strategy is going to be for Saturday, I've got you at Susquehanna. I know that Pat is going to be at Salisbury. I'm going to try to really follow the North Central, Springfield, North Central, UMHB, Hopkins games to sort of even things out, since we'll be getting probably live videos from you guys. I'll try to dial in. All right, maybe I'll even put my phone up and try to record something, and shoot it out here, amateur style. Maybe we'll have to do the, where's Frank, where's Pat, tweets as well. We'll see what happens. But I'm thinking I'll try to focus in on Hopkins early on, see how that game goes, and then once 1 o'clock rolls around, I'll see what's happening with the Cardinals and the Pride.
We'll see you in Crunch Time next week, folks, so stay tuned for a whole lot more. Thanks again to North Central and to Mount Union for helping us with some terrific interviews today, and we had some great viewership. We know that as well, so thanks to everybody out there that came to watch us live, and make sure you send out the archive to folks that might not have gotten a chance to see us. Thanks again, folks, and we will see you throughout the weekend and next week.